Hello everyone, in this video lessons we are going to look at question number 5 of the Neco 2021 paper 2 part 1 past question tutorial, and we are going to look at the frequency distribution, this time around of a group data. And the question says the table below shows the mass of logs of woods to the nearest kilograms, the mass with this group data, and then the frequency. And the question now says calculate A, the mean, and B, the mode. Now this question is very tactical because it's going to test your knowledge on how you can manipulate grouped data. What make them group? When you see this value 31 minus to 40, 41 to 50, these are the logs, the mass of woods within this group, and that is why we call them group data. In this video lessons, we're going to show you how to solve questions like this. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, then you've missed a lot. I want you to hit the subscribe button so that when we start taking the second part 2 of this Neco 2021 past questions, you can be notified when such videos comes out. Now let's analyze the next question. Let's look at the next question. The next question says, now let's analyze the next question. The next question says, let's solve this question let's go straight to our whiteboard to solve this question. Now to solve this question, we need first to construct the frequency table, because the frequency table is going to comprise of the mass, the frequency, we are going to have the class boundary, the values of x, and then the values of what? The values of x squared. Now let's look at how we can do that. But before we do that, I want us to look at the formula for mean. The formula for mean is going to be what? M equal to what? Summation fx all over what? Summation f. Because this is going to give us an idea of what we are actually looking for. Now we are going to look at the formula for mode too. The formula for mode, when we are calculating mode that has to do with group data, is what? Is the lowest class boundary plus what? Plus all brackets the mean, the mode, the frequency of the modal class M minus the frequency of the class before it, bracket, all over what? The frequency of the modal class minus the what? The frequency of the class before it, right? Plus what? The frequency of the modal class minus the frequency of the class after it. And all of these will be multiplied by the what? By what we call the interval of the modal class. And what is the interval? That is C. That is the interval of the modal class. The interval of the modal class is the difference between the upper boundary and the lowest boundary of the what? Of the modal class. Remember, if it is for ungrouped data, we can say the modal class is the most what? Is the highest what? Frequency. But since this is a group data, then we'll have to look at how we'll solve it. Now let's go back to the frequency distribution table. In the frequency distribution table, we are going to have the mass. After the mass, we are going to have the next thing we are going to have is the frequency, and after the frequency, we are going to have our values for x, and then our values for fx. That's what we are going to have. Now let's look at how we can get these parameters. Remember the first one we are told that this is what 31 to what 31 to 40, and this is 41 to what 50, 50. This is what 51 to what 51 to 60, right? And this is what 61 to what 70, and this is what 71 to what 71 to 80, 71 to 80, and we'll have what 81 to what 81 to 90. Those are the values we'll have. Now let's look at their frequency. If you look at their frequency, you notice now that the frequency is 3, 10, 15, 12, 6, and what 4. Now let's put the frequency. This will be what 3, this will be 10, this will be what 15, this will be what 12, this will be what 6. We have 71. We have missed one class boundary. This should be what? 71 to 80, 81 to 90, 91. Okay, this will be what? This will be 4. So we've gotten everything completely. Now, the next thing we need to do now is to find the value of what? Is to find the value of x. Now, for us to find the value of x, all we need to do is to add the lower class limit plus the what? Upper class limit, and we divide it by what? We divide by 2. So when we add 31 plus 40, you need to have a calculator handy so as to calculate these things. Now let's see how we can calculate them using our calculator. Now 31 minus 40, 31 plus 40, 31 plus 40 divided by 2 is going to give us what? 35.5. The next one, 41 plus 50 divided by 2 is going to give us 45.5. Take note of that. The next one, 51 plus 60 divided by 2 is going to give us 55.5. The next one, 61 plus 70 divided by 2 is going to give us 65.5. And the next one we have what? 80 plus 71 divided by 2 is going to give us what? 75.5. The next one we have what? 81 plus 90 divided by 2 is going to give us now 85 point what? 0.5. Now when we do this, what are we going to get? We're going to add up, we're going to multiply the frequency times the what? The frequency times the what? Times the value of x. So 35.5 times 3 will give us 106 point what? 106.5. Then 10 times 45.5 will give us 400 and what? 55. Right? The next one we are going to have 15 times 55.5 is going to give us 832 point what? 0.5. The next one we are going to have 65.5 times 12. That will give us what? 786. When we point it, we are going to have 786. Good. That will give us what? 786. 786. Then the next one we are going to have, what? We're going to have 75.5 times 6. That will give us what? That will give us 453. And finally, we're going to have what? 85.5 times 4, and that will give us what? 342. So for us to find the mean, summation fs all over summation f, we need to sum this. So this will give us 3 plus 10 plus 15 plus 12 plus 6 plus 4. That will be what? That will give us 50. And then we'll sum up 106.5 plus 455 plus 832.5 plus 786 plus 453 plus 342. If we sum that together, we're going to have 2,900 and what? 75. Now, having gotten that, now we can now move ahead to look for our what? For our mean. Our mean will be equal to what? Summation of what? Fx all over summation of what? F. So that will give us what? Summation Fx will give us what? 2975 divided by what? 50. When we divide that, we are going to have what? 2975 divided by 50. That will give us what? That will give us 59 point what? Point 5. So that is the what? That is the mean of this frequency distribution table. So the next thing we want to look for now is to look for the what? The mode. Now, for us to get the mode, we need to look at find these whole parameters. This whole parameter L1 is the what? L1 is the lower class boundary. And what do we mean by the lower class boundary of the modal class? Now, what is the which of this class is the modal class? Modal class is the class that has the highest what? Frequency. So 15 is the highest frequency. So this is the what? The modal class. So the lower class boundary of the modal class is what? Is 50 what? Is 51. The next thing we are going to look at, we are going to look at we are going to look at FM. FM means the frequency of the modal class. We are going to look at our FM. Our FM is the frequency of the modal class, and it is what? It is 15. Our F what? F1 is the frequency of the class that is above the modal class. The frequency of the class that is above the modal class is what? Is 10. This value, that is 10. And we'll have our what? Our F2 is the frequency of the class that is below the modal class. That is what? 12. And finally, we have the last value, which is C. The C is equal to what? The difference between the upper class limit and the what? And the lower class limit. So the upper class limit and the interval of the modal class is the upper class limit and the lower class limit. This is the upper class limit and this is the lower class limit. So that will give us what? 60 minus 50 what? 1. And 60 minus 51 will give us what? 9. So having gotten that whole parameters, our main aim now is to fit them into where they should be. Remember the equation, our mode will now be equal to L1, which is what? 51 into bracket what? Fm minus what? F1. That will give us what? 15 minus 10, right? All over what? The next one is what? Fm minus F1. Still that will give us 15 minus 10. Then the sign is what? Plus what? Plus Fm minus what? Minus F2, which is what? 15 minus 12. So all of these will be multiplying the what? The 9. Remember, there is a sign here, so this will be what? This will be positive. So this will give us what? 51 plus bracket 15 minus 10 will give us what? 5 over what? 5 plus 15 minus 12 will give us what? 3, all in brackets 9. So we'll have our what? 51 plus what? 5 over 8. 5 plus 3 will give us what? Give us 8, all multiplied by what? All multiplied by 9. So 9 times 5, that will give us what? This whole will give us 51 plus 9 times 5 will give us what? 45 divided by what? By 8. 45 divided by 8 will now give us, our whole value will now be 51 plus what? 45 divided by 8 will give us, if we point our calculator, we are going to have 5.62625. So if we add these two values, we are going to have this to be what? 56.62 what? 623. So that's what we are going to have. So our modal class will be equal to 56 point what? 0.6. So if you find out, you'll find out that this modal class exists in between what? It just exists in between these what? These two values, 56.6. So the frequency is 15 and the modal class is what? Is 56. Within this class limit, 56 point what? 0.6. So you see, if you can solve this question completely, you will be able to get your 8 mark completely. So that really shows that solving question that has to do with group data can be very, very easy. This is the last question we are going to look at in the part 2 part of the paper 2, part 1 part of the paper 2, the Neco 2021 past question. In our next section, we will start the part 2 of this paper 2. Don't miss out. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, hit the subscribe button now so that you'll be able to get notified when most of these videos are published. Thanks so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you watch our subsequent videos.